There's a specific feeling you get when you realize someone who used to be on your level, or above you, has started behaving strangely toward you. They go quiet when you share a win. They find small reasons to question your work. They stop being the person who used to support you, and you can't quite name what changed. Here's what changed. You became a competitive threat they couldn't resolve. And when a human being encounters a social competitor they cannot close the gap on, the brain doesn't respond with acceptance. It responds with a predictable, hardwired behavioral sequence. This video is a behavioral X-ray of that sequence. 7 specific things people do when they can't beat you, and the exact psychology driving each one. In 1954, psychologist Leon Festinger published what would become one of the most cited theories in social psychology, social comparison theory. The core finding was simple but unsettling. Humans don't evaluate themselves in a vacuum. We evaluate ourselves against the people around us. And when that comparison reveals a gap we cannot close, when the person next to us is performing at a level we cannot reach, a specific psychological system activates. Social psychologist Abraham Tesser later refined this into what he called the self-evaluation maintenance model. The key insight: when someone close to you outperforms you in a domain that matters to your identity, your career, your social standing, your creative output, your intelligence, your brain doesn't file it as neutral information. It registers it as a threat. Not metaphorically, neurologically. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, fires similar patterns whether the threat is physical or social. Evolutionary psychologist Joseph Henrich's research on human hierarchies explains why. For most of human history, losing rank in your social group wasn't a minor inconvenience. It had direct consequences for survival, access to food, protection, mating. The brain that treated social status as a survival variable was the brain that lived, which means the person in your life who cannot compete with you isn't experiencing a minor annoyance. At the neurological level, they are experiencing something closer to danger. And danger produces action. Here is what that action looks like. Behavior 1. Minimization. The first and most universal response. They don't attack what you've done, they shrink it. Yeah, but that's not really that hard. A lot of people have done that. You got lucky with the timing. The psychological function here is not to convince you, it's to convince themselves, and anyone watching, that the gap between you and them is smaller than it appears. This is Tesser's self-evaluation maintenance in real time. If the achievement can be reframed as ordinary, the threat it represents to their self-evaluation is reduced. Across generations, the form changes. Older generations tend to do this verbally and directly in social settings. Millennials often do it in reframing narratives. It was the right place at the right time. Gen Z does it most frequently through silence and non-engagement, the conspicuous absence of acknowledgement in a culture where public acknowledgement is currency. Different tool, same psychological function. Behavior 2. Derogation. Minimization shrinks the achievement. Derogation attacks the achiever. When minimization stops working, when the gap is too obvious to explain away, the next behavioral move is to find something wrong with you. Your values, your methods, your character. Not necessarily in ways they say to your face. More often in the narrative they build quietly, in rooms you're not in, with people you both know. The psychology here is important to understand. Derogation doesn't require the person to consciously decide to smear you. The brain, under the pressure of unresolved competitive threat, naturally scouts for information that supports a negative view of the threat. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning. The conclusion is decided first, and the evidence is gathered in service of that conclusion. The more successful you become in their eyes, the more motivated the reasoning. Behavior 3. Strategic distancing. At some point, being around you becomes cognitively expensive. Every interaction is a reminder of the gap. Every conversation produces another comparison that activates the threat response. So they start to disappear. Fewer invitations, slower responses, a gradual withdrawal from the spaces where you are present. This is not always deliberate. In many cases, the person isn't consciously aware they are distancing, They experience it as losing interest, or as you changing, or as the relationship running its course. But the timing is rarely coincidental. The distance tends to accelerate in direct proportion to your momentum. Here's what's important to understand about these first three behaviors. They are not random. They follow a sequence. A predictable escalation ladder rooted in the same psychological mechanism, the brain trying to manage a competitive threat it cannot resolve through performance. Minimization is the first attempt. Make the gap smaller. Derogation is the second. Make the threat less credible. Distancing is the third. Remove the comparison from view. When none of these work, when you keep growing, keep performing, keep being visible, the behavior escalates. And the next four behaviors are where it gets more deliberate. Behavior 4. Information hoarding. In professional and social environments, information is leverage. Opportunities, connections, context, updates. In any shared environment, information flows between people. When someone has decided you are a competitive threat, one of the quietest and most effective tools available to them is simply to stop passing information your way. They don't sabotage you directly. They just make sure you are slightly less connected, slightly less informed, slightly further from the rooms where things happen. Behavior 5. Coalition building. When the individual threat response isn't enough, social mammals recruit. This is perhaps the most evolutionarily ancient behavior on this list. Primatologist Frans de Waal's research on chimpanzee alliances documents how lower-ranking individuals form coalitions against dominant competitors as a survival mechanism. Humans do the same thing, with more sophisticated social language. They begin identifying others who share, or can be persuaded to share, a negative view of you. Not through dramatic confrontation, through casual conversation, through the tone they use when your name comes up, through the questions they plant. Do you ever feel like she's a bit full of herself? Don't you think he gets too much credit? The goal is not direct attack. It is social permission, building a coalition in which being critical of you becomes normalized. Across generations, older generations do this through institutional networks, club memberships, professional associations, workplace hierarchies. Millennials do it through social and professional circles, the dinner table, the group chat. Gen Z does it through social media microsignals, the content they repost, the accounts they publicly engage or conspicuously don't. Behavior 6. Credential undermining. As your positioning in any environment solidifies, they begin to question the legitimacy of your standing, not your actions. Your right to be where you are. This shows up as subtle challenges to your credentials, your experience, your background. Does she actually have a degree in that? Or did she just take a course? He doesn't have as much experience as he makes it sound. She got that position because of who she knows. The psychological function is a direct attack on the perceived legitimacy of your competitive advantage. If they can establish, even just in the social atmosphere of a shared environment, that your standing is illegitimate, they neutralize it without having to close the performance gap themselves. This escalates directly with your visibility. The more undeniable your performance becomes, the more the attack shifts from what you've done to who you really are. Behavior 7. Engineered friction. The final escalation. When passive attacks have failed, some people become structural. They don't attack you in conversations. They engineer circumstances that slow you down. Missed introductions they could have made. Recommendations slightly delayed. Small pieces of your work slightly misrepresented to key people. Deadlines complicated just enough. Logistics that somehow always seem harder for you than for everyone else. Each individual incident looks accidental, or bureaucratic, or like bad luck. The pattern, across time, is the behavioral signature of someone who has made a decision, perhaps not even consciously, to use whatever leverage they have over your environment to reduce the gap between you. This is the most psychologically evolved form on the list because it requires the most sustained cognitive effort and carries the most social risk. The person who reaches behavior 7 is someone for whom the unresolved competitive threat has become a dominant organizing principle in how they engage with the world around you. Here is the frame that ties all 7 behaviors together. None of them are about you. Every single one of them, from the offhand minimization to the engineered friction, is the behavioral output of someone managing an internal problem they cannot solve. The internal problem is this: the comparison between you and them produces a conclusion their self-image cannot accept. And rather than resolving that dissonance by changing their own performance, which is the hardest path, the brain routes toward changing the perceived meaning of yours. Shrink it, discredit it, distance from it. Recruit others to agree it is smaller than it looks. Undermine its legitimacy. Slow its momentum. Every tactic in this sequence is a different method of performing the same psychological function: managing the unresolvable gap. This understanding matters enormously for how you respond. The instinct, when you recognize these patterns, is to defend yourself, to correct the record, to address each behavior as it arises. But defending against each tactic is engaging with the symptom, not the source. The source is the gap, and the gap exists because of what you've built. People operating at the level that draws this kind of response, people who have genuinely developed an edge that others cannot resolve, have always navigated this environment. Every field, every generation, every social structure produces this dynamic when someone performs outside the expected range. What separates the people who eventually get worn down by it from the people who don't is one cognitive shift. The moment you stop experiencing these behaviors as personal attacks and start reading them as behavioral data, evidence of a gap that someone else's nervous system is struggling to process, they lose most of their power over your mental state. You are not the problem they are trying to solve. You are the evidence of a problem they have not yet solved within themselves. Keep building. The behaviors don't stop. They escalate, as we've seen. But the person who understands the escalation ladder doesn't need to fight each rung. They simply need to keep climbing. If you recognized a specific person, or several, in these 7 behaviors, hold on to this. Recognition is not the same as accusation. Understanding the mechanism doesn't excuse the behavior. It removes its power to confuse you. You already knew something was happening. Now you have a language for it.